We've confirmed this with the Marlins organization.
Executive sports producer David Lang is in our video report with more coverage. Good morning, David.
This is beyond shocking for the sports world, for South Florida, to wake up on a Sunday morning and find out that truly a sports icon of South Florida died in a way like this. Such a young, dynamic, talented, fiery, you see him here all fired up. This is just devastating news beyond the sports world. You have a young man who came here from Cuba, who became an American citizen, who represents so much of the American dream and America's pastime, and has been the Marlins for Major League Baseball, for sports, for kids. This is just crushing news that, I mean, when I woke up this morning, I'm still in shock. I can't believe it. What Jose means to Marlins fans, to baseball fans, to South Florida is beyond words. And this was a guy who's so young and so talented and has such a bright future ahead of him. And like that, just overnight, killed in an instant. I really don't have the words to put into perspective his potential, what he meant. I mean, you think about baseball and you think about, you know, baseball players who were killed before their time. I mean, you're talking like Roberto Clemente, you're talking, I mean, it's a very short list to have a young athlete. I want to say in his prime, I don't even know if he'd reached his prime yet. This is a young man who already bounced back from Tommy John surgery. And this year, the Marlins had him on an innings limit. And Jose has been such a spectacle, so truly great to watch. And Will Manso, our sports director, is on the phone. And Will, you know this. You've covered Jose. You've covered a lot of athletes. And you and I were texting this morning. And I don't even know what to say.
Well, David, it's, you know, the word tragedy is a word we've used throughout the morning. And I think earlier we were trying to talk with Nikki and Todd. Unfortunately, we got cut off. But the point of the way tragedy happens is the unexpected nature of something like this. You could never even imagine that this would happen. So as we update people that are watching now and tuning in and maybe in disbelief and don't want to believe the news, the Marlins have confirmed that Jose Fernandez was killed in a boating accident overnight. That has been confirmed by the team. There are news conferences coming up with the Coast Guard and eventually the Miami Marlins as well. I was just texting with David Sampson, Marlins team president, who said at this point he's just too much in shock to speak over the phone, but that he will speak later to the media when the Coast Guard makes its statement and the team makes its statement to discuss what has happened. And to put it in perspective, you're talking about a 24-year-old, one of the most dynamic personalities you can ever cover and meet. His story of coming to the United States, I think anyone who's familiar with Jose Fernandez, the Miami Marlins, understands the way to get here. The numerous trips that he tried to leave the island of Cuba and was intercepted and sent back, and then jailed as a teenager when he was caught, and then taking that chance once again and finally making it to the United States, following his dream, playing high school ball in Tampa, being a high draft pick by a team in Miami, so close to his native Cuba, and then becoming a superstar for the Miami Marlins, two-time All-Star, 2013 National League Rookie of the Year, and one of the more vibrant personalities in the game of baseball. I mean, the Marlins, when he pitches, they call it Jose Day. And this is what I was trying to explain earlier to Nikki and Todd before we got cut off, is the unexpected nature of a tragedy and how the puzzle pieces that come together to make something terrible like this happen. Jose Fernandez was scheduled to pitch today for the Miami Marlins.
They had actually pushed that back yesterday.
Finally, another young pitcher was moved to pitch today because he had been on the disabled list. So Jose's start was then moved to Monday, which means Jose was scheduled to pitch tomorrow. If Jose Fernandez is pitching today, he's likely not on the boat overnight fishing with his good friends, as he often did. He's an avid fisherman, avid boater. He's likely not out, and this tragedy doesn't happen. Again, we're just connecting the dots here on what leads to a tragedy. There is no explanation. There's no way to explain it, describe it, other than the fact that Jose Fernandez is a young life, a vibrant personality. Forget the fact that he's a wonderful, amazing, talented baseball player, but he's a friend. I mentioned this earlier to Nikki and Todd again when the initial report came out and the Marlins confirmed. Jose recently announcing that his girlfriend is pregnant with their first child. So again, you piece this together, and there's just no words that can describe There's no comparison. David had mentioned earlier about loss of athletes. There have been a number of NBA players or college players that have died tragically, whatever reason it may be, for heart conditions, for things like this. But in an accident like this, I think back to Thurman Munson, a great Yankees catcher who died in the late 70s in a plane crash. David mentioned Roberto Clemente, who was the tail end of his career, but was still an iconic figure and such a popular baseball player. You get into that realm when you talk about the loss of Jose. This is not just a local story that impacts the South Florida community. This is a story that impacts the sports world. One of the most vibrant personalities and talented players in all of sports dead at the age of 24.
Will, when you covered him, and just, you've covered so many athletes throughout your time, you've covered so many personalities, but you and I always talk about one of the words that Jose Fernandez always used when he spoke was he would say the word lucky. Whether they won, they lost, he would say lucky. There was such a sense of appreciation for being here in the United States, being here in the major leagues, and having the opportunity to be here, and he lived the American dream. We covered, his mother in the stands, his abuela in the stands. Just kind of frame what it meant to sort of have the perfect star for South Florida. If you had to build a young star that could be the perfect icon of South Florida, Jose would be the guy you would have built.
And the tragedy of it, too, David, is that you said in the American dream, he is the true definition of the American dream. And I mentioned earlier the ill-fated trips to not make it here, to get sent back, to be in jail in Cuba as a teenager, as a 12, 13-year-old, to have to deal with that and have to continue to attempt to follow you to make it here. I remember the day that Jose was made an American citizen, and we were all there. Our crews were there, all the local stations. Jose did not stop smiling for the entire hour he was there. When he put up his hand and he pledged to this nation and he had that flag, it wasn't a gimmick, it wasn't a game, it wasn't a let me do this for the cameras. It was sheer joy from a young man who had always dreamed of coming to this country, fulfilling his dreams. And he did. No matter the tragedy that's happened now that Jose's life has been cut short, he followed his dream. He got to the major leagues and became a superstar. Just the sadness of it all is that it ends now at 24 with so much ahead of him, with a family. You mentioned his mom, his abuela. I mentioned earlier that his girlfriend is pregnant with their first child. There's no way to stack up how tragic this is when you put together the pieces of Jose Fernandez's amazing life. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and it'll be said by many again. I don't think you could write a Hollywood script that would include all the twists and turns that made it for Jose to get to this point. And for this script to end with this tragedy is just something that's just hard to comprehend right now.
And Will, just the fit. I mean, something I always think about, and we've discussed with Jose, is just the fit of him in the Marlins organization. Throughout the years, whatever ups and downs the Marlins organization has had, this was the young star that they could grab onto. He still had 2 years under his contract with the Marlins. This was someone who the fans really embraced. We mentioned that he's not just a player. He was a hashtag. Every single time the guy pitched was a Jose day. It was an event. You would plan, do I want to go to the ballpark today? Well, Jose's pitching. I mean, how does an organization, move on, just even fathom that something like this could happen to such a dynamic, talented player?
They don't, and I mentioned David Sampson, who said he's just not ready to comment now, the Marlins will speak later. Right now, this is all going, we're sitting here having this discussion, and I think as fans are and people that are watching are thinking of little things going through your mind. Think of what the Marlins are going through their mind. David Sampson, I've had numerous conversations in the past about Jose, and he's often asked, and the Marlins are often asked about whether he's going to resign. His agent, Scott Boras, has talked about a $300 million contract for Jose. There was always the thought that Jose would end up somewhere else. But in the Marlins' mind, they always said, we're going to do everything in our power to keep him for the many reasons you just mentioned. Jose's not just a great baseball player. He's that dynamic personality who really, in many ways, solidifies what South Florida is about. The strong community to come here and follow the American dream. Not just the Cuban American community, any community, anybody that comes to South Florida with a dream from whatever country it may be. Jose represented that. And the Marlins understood that. They understood the impact culturally that he had. But it also helped the fact that Jose was such a personality. It's one thing if he didn't smile or have fun as he played the game. Jose was always smiling. He was playing against opponents and finger pointing and laughing, and guys would hit home runs off of him, and he'd give them credit and point at him. It's such a rarity in a game of baseball that it's such a old man's game in many ways. That Jose
Yes.
was young, vibrant personality.
They always talk about, Will, those unwritten rules of
It's
baseball.
hard to describe what they must be going through right now.
You know, they always talk about those unwritten rules of baseball, and you have kind of old school players like a Brian McCann who gets angry if a guy flips his bat, or if a guy stares down a batter when he strikes him out, or if he gives an extra fist pump. But Jose was all about that. I mean, the absolute joy that he played with every single time he took the mound. Just, I don't know, other than Dontrell Willis in the 10 plus years of covering the Marlins, other than the D train and the event when Dontrell would come out, I've never seen, I don't know if I've seen another major league pitcher with that sort of joie de vivre, that sort of enthusiasm for every single time he took the mound.
Yeah, and that's, the funny thing about Jose is there are many in the game that felt he was a little too brash and it rubbed them the wrong way, and usually that was the opposing player because he was the one beating you. But Jose's thing wasn't a gimmick, and I think over time, others around the game, you mentioned Brian McCann, and other people who have complained about Jose's style and attitude, started realizing that this isn't a gimmick. This is Jose 24/7, vibrant, loving life, joking, practical jokes, laughing. This is what he was about, and when you put it in the of what he's been through, when you really look at what he's been through, how could he not be excited? A guy that could have easily, as a teenager, died at sea or died in the jail or left in Cuba and never followed his dream, got it. How could he not live his life every day with that kind of love and passion? And it's what attracted fans to him, attracted the organization, and attracted a real following and respect from other major leaguers. Not every player is going to be like Jose like that, but they also don't have the backstory of why Jose is the way he is and the way he was.
You know, the Dan Le Batard told a story about Jose when he first came to this country. He was at an airport and he was in a bathroom and they had one of those automatic, the water runs under your hands. And Jose looked like confused. He didn't know what it was. I mean, just there was such a new experience coming to the United States at such a young age with so much promise and so much talent and just sort of some of the cultural differences. And this guy handled everything with so much aplomb and with so much, passion and so much fun that even if, there were barriers to him getting adjusted to the game here, he never, ever let it show.
And I'll give you a perfect example of Jose's personality and how it wasn't a gimmick and it was truly him. And it's a story you remember as well, and I think anybody who's a fan of Jose remembers. Jose was asked to throw out the ceremonial first puck at a Panthers game last year.
Yeah.
And he threw out the puck, and first of all, he had never been to a hockey game before, because obviously in Cuba, it's not something, they don't follow hockey. It's not, me being Cuban, having Cuban parents, they know nothing about hockey. My parents know nothing. Jose was the same way, coming to this country, learning about hockey, had no idea what he was getting himself into. He dropped that puck, and he sat down to watch that game. And Jose's energy and the way he was screaming and just going crazy in that Panthers uniform, that wasn't a gimmick. That was just a big kid. That was a young man who had never seen a hockey game before, who thought, my God, what have I missed? I never saw this in Cuba. I've come to this country and look at this, how much fun this is. Screaming and cheering, and he, all the way to the end, I remember the Panthers at the end had a great comeback, and they won, and Jose was going crazy, and it was sheer passion and energy, and that's Jose in a nutshell, and anything he did. And you see where he got it from. His mom and his abuela, they go to all the games he pitches, and he points at them when he gets a big strikeout, and you see them jumping up and down. It's never old hat to them. It's never like, oh, look, my son, my grandson Jose is a major league deal. It's always this passion knowing that this wasn't a given. This may not have happened, and every moment we live is a dream. And I know it's been said and needs to be said again. At a time like this, you mentioned what the Marlins are going through. I can only imagine what his mother's abuela are going through. His mom and his abuela who are there by his side all day. That is their life. And our condolences go out to them because it's not even imaginable what is going through their mind now. The loss of Jose, the loss of a child, the loss of a grandson. It's just, there's no way to put it other than just a massive tragedy that all of South Florida is feeling.
The whole community.
We're going to wait till after the Coast Guard News Conference, which, if I'm not mistaken, it's gotten moved during our conversation. The Coast Guard News Conference is scheduled for 10:30. The Marlins then at the ballpark will have some sort of news conference as well where they'll speak. With David Sampson and the Marlins organization will get their take on this. And just, again, devastating nature of this news.
I mean, it's just something you talk about his family, and you talk about sort of just the devastating loss. I can't even imagine, Will, what that experience must have been like in the Marlins offices for Jeffrey Loria, for David Sampson, I feel like the Marlins organization, and tell me what you think about this, they looked at Jose as sort of their crowning achievement. This was a guy they found. This was a guy who represents what they want to represent as an organization. He did not have quite yet a long-term deal. He still had 2 years, but you had to think that him and Giancarlo Stanton were going to be exactly who the Marlins built their entire franchise around. And now you got the All-Star game coming to Miami next year. Jose was the centerpiece of the Marlins. From every perspective, from an emotional perspective, like you said, an emotional leader, from a talent perspective, already been through Tommy John surgery, still through 98, 99, all kinds of control, would strike out multiple batters on multiple occasions. I mean, this is as good a young prospect. And it's crazy to think, 24 young, he was a prospect. He hadn't even begun to touch the level of talent that he had. And he was already a two-time All-Star. I mean, it's just, it's so, I want someone to wake me up from this. I mean, that's just as someone who loves baseball.
To your point, two things from it. Number one is this year Jose set the franchise record already. He said it earlier, said about a month ago, for most strikeouts in a season. So he was having that type of dominant season. He set a single-season franchise record, 4 strikeouts this year. In his big comeback full season, like you said, the Marlins would try to keep his innings at a limit, and still he had a spectacular year. But I think to your point, too, about the organization, you know, what it means from baseball, yes, it hurts. I mean, look, Jose Fernandez is the centerpiece of this franchise. But the Miami Marlins organization will go on from a baseball perspective. From the emotional, personal perspective, this is where it gets difficult. Jose was the heart and soul of the franchise. And for all that has been said of Jeffrey Loria in the past and all the stuff and all the things that have been talked about Loria, the one thing you can say for sure with Loria is that he loved Jose Fernandez. He was the man who drove, financed, set up, found a way to get Jose Abuela to get here to this country, to get here, to get the Marlins game, surprising Jose, where Jose was just shocked when he saw his grandmother there.
Do you remember how much that meant to him, Will? That's a great...
By Jeffrey Loria. Organizations don't do that for just anyone. But you have so many players within an organization, so many people within your franchise, you can't just do that for everyone. Jeffrey Loria did that for Jose Fernandez, and that tells you how important Jose was as a person. Not as a baseball player, but as a person, for him to have done that for Jose.